Good morning, my dear students and my fellows. It is an honor to introduce to you Dr. S.P.S. Khanuja, an eminent scientist and an entrepreneur. He did his PhD in 1987 from IIRI, New Delhi. He did his postdoctoral studies from University of California, USA. Since then, he was on various key positions in academia as well as research. He was the director, CMAT, Lucknow from 2001 to 2008. He is a member, Scientific Advisory Committee to the Cabinet, Government of India, Chairman of Steering Committee for NMITLI program of CSIR, member of research councils of various organizations in India. He was also the founder president of Medicinal and Aromatic Plants Society of India. So far, he supervised 15 PhD students, and currently 6 students are registered with him for his doctoral studies. He has published 165 research papers and 19 book chapters. He holds 33 technical patents. He is also on the editorial board of many scientific journals. He has contributed in many international scientific forums like in USA, Italy, China, and the Netherlands. He received various scientific awards for his contribution in academia as well as in research, like CSIR Technology Award for Life Sciences in 2012, FICCI Award for R&D innovations in rural India, and many more to this list. Since 2008, he is an innovation advisor and technology consultant to various agricultural, plant, and food industries. In 2011, he founded a new enterprises in agri-biotech sector named as Skies India. Since 2013, he is a mentor and director of Skies Life Technologies Private Limited, New Delhi. Now I would like to invite, without wasting any more time, to Dr. S.P. Khanuja on the stage and request him to deliver his talk. The topic is the innovation pathway of converging sciences into business.
Very good morning to all of you. First, let me thank Professor Sunil Khanna, your mentor and my friend, for giving me this platform to have interaction with the next gen who is going to be into the technology arena. My passion has been that our understanding should go with science into technology, and then technology must reach the masses. So that's what I have been doing all through my life and want to continue. And to remain young, I always want to be associated with people like you rather than people like Dr. Khanna. So the reason is that I'm not pinpointing Dr. Khanna, the generation gap, which unfortunately has happened in India. There are very few people 50 plus who really go with the mindset of 16 to 19 years age and then bring it to the advantage of 50 years. But I saw him just not doing that, so I think he is trying to be like me amongst you and then drive you to a level where you could drive yourself. So that's what a mentorship is. It is an interactive session. You can just stop me anywhere in between if you want and ask the questions. You know that most of us understand that a person is intelligent or capable by judging the IQ. I don't believe in that. because that is what you can mug up and answer. Whatever you can retain is answered and your IQ is calculated. I believe in AQ. AQ is asking the questions. So if you can ask the question, you can be more intelligent than a person with high IQ. And let me tell you that there is no question anywhere in the universe which is a silly question. So don't hesitate in asking a question thinking that what will others think, or what will sir say, or what will my professor say, or what will this person say. And if the answer to your question whom you are asking by your professor, your teacher, or your speaker is given like, you don't know even this, that means he doesn't know this. That's why he's saying that. He doesn't have the answer for that. Like, there could be a question why blue looks like blue, or why some people like blue and some people like red. Answer is not ready-made unless you have been into that area of colors. But when we start exploring the answer, that is where we start working on a platform on which I think you are adopting for this institute and going for a degree means. Another thing, remember that when we talk about science, science is why and what. The answers to why and what is science. And when you come to the answer of how, it is technology. But there is something beyond science and technology that we need when we want to translate it into something useful. And that is innovation. And the question for innovation is only one. Why not? If people say this doesn't happen, if your mind asks a question, why not? And why don't I make it happen? Then you are an innovator. So that's the type of psychology one has to develop and go against the stream. So to change the mood, just from academic into understanding the whole concept from a lighter side, and then going into the side which is more of academic, I thought, let me share this story with you. I will not speak in between, I will just go through these slides and you will yourself understand what I am saying. Why this thinking? This is a question that came to everyone. What did this fellow read? So each one of you who thinks you can be the deaf tiny frog has to pass on to 5 more frogs and make them deaf to pessimism. Okay, so how many of you think that you are going to be the tiny frog who is deaf to the pessimism? How many of you?
Why don't we reverse the
Yeah,
question?
now
How many
you are not.
I don't think you
I'm
will be
already
the
deaf.
Huh?
I'm already deaf.
Even to what I am saying? Okay. So anyone who is not agreeing with being deaf to the pessimism? Anyone of you? Okay, so I take it that then I can go on with my other presentation, which I made as a blend of science and philosophy, and also thinking that how we could be achieving not the degrees but beyond the degrees. So for degrees you are already into a place which is safe. In this safe zone you will get your degrees with your hard work and your minds, and after you come out then you have to be somebody. You don't have to be anybody. And to be that somebody, how we could be thinking, of course I try to integrate converged sciences, but my bias obviously will be my own background, and that is agriculture and biology. But you will find that I don't believe that agriculture and biology are the only ways. Even for me, it could be anything else that I might like to integrate into my field. So the title that I gave to my talk for this discussion is Reaching the Unreached. That means reaching even the deaf, but with a positive note. And the path is why not, that is innovation. And the strategy is converge the knowledge of your science streams into something that could become a product or technology or process which can really make a difference. And as I said, the route that we are going to take in this path of our career has to be innovation. One could ask beyond why not, what is innovate? How do we innovate? The best way is not to follow. I'm not saying don't follow your teachers, but follow your teachers only up to the subject level. The rest is up to you. And picking up, making a choice, what you really want to take ahead is what is going to determine the content of what not to follow by you. I'll give you an example of innovation for how to innovate or how not to follow. Is we would like to grow tall into dwarf. Now usually everyone by tradition would say that the small thing will grow into tall, particularly when it's a biological material. But I am saying making the tall to grow into dwarf. And does it give us any advantage? And there is a clear-cut example with us. The Green Revolution in India. The Green Revolution, the man behind Green Revolution is Dr. Norman Borlaug. And from India, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who made use of the dwarfing genes in wheat, that the wheat used to grow this tall and that has to become very short. This is tall wheat. These are desi wheat varieties like C306, K65, and this is dwarf wheat. Now this is a result of crossing the tall wheat with very, very dwarf sources of wheat, which otherwise were not giving us any yield of grains. And as a result, the dwarf had per unit area more production of the grains. That is called harvest index. And almost 3.5 to 5 times of the yield from dwarf plants. So that is why I say tall can grow into dwarf. So you have to think beyond. You have to think beyond what your normal mindset would say, and therefore you have to open it up. You know, like parachute. If it is not open, it is of no use. Same is true for the brain, and that's what you will have to apply. I get inspired by Norman Borlaug, about whom I just talked, with another statement he once gave. Of course, I have derived that statement into a straightaway understandable format, and that is, plants do not speak, they just whisper. So if you want to understand the plants, you have to be very close to them. The whispers you cannot listen. The plant is there and I am here, I cannot listen to it. I have to be very close to the plant. And that closeness in scientific terms will be, I must understand its biochemistry, I must understand its physiology, I must understand its genetics and so on. And this is what inspired him to bring Green Revolution, by understanding that dwarfing genes which are existing in wheat can bring tall into a higher producing dwarfer wheats or high yielding varieties. But for my own field, for my own area of interest, that is into natural products, I took it in a different way. This same message which has gone into Green Revolution for production of higher quantity of food for wheat, I have taken it in this way. I am asking you, did you think I thought that plants, they have molecules of drug value, they are medicinal plants, they produce drugs. So there are plants you must have known which are used for brain, like bromine. There are plants which are used for liver, like phyllanthus. There are plants which are used for lungs. There are plants which are used for skin. There are plants, many purposes. Now we have all these organs and these elements which plants do not have. Then why will they produce those drugs for us? Are they saints? Or is there a biological significance? Why are they producing drugs which are good for heart and lungs and brain and so on, which they themselves do not have? So when start thinking about that, we find that plants have an armory of chemical weapons. And these chemical weapons are in terms of secondary metabolites or plant compounds that accumulate in them, and these are meant for defending themselves. They are not meant for liver or brain or other things. These are the extra uses which we found by our innovative mind, by why nots and whys. But what plants do there is that they have to withstand all adversities. Now, if I ask you what is the major difference between you and plant, or humans and plants, most of the people would refer to that they photosynthesize and we do not, and therefore they make their own food. Yes, that is true, that they are more capable than us. And if I say what is the incapability in plants, which we have as capability, they have incapability, we will usually reach a stage where we will say plants are immobile, they are anchored into soil, and we can move, we are mobile. So we can move from one location to the other. Is this really a capability in true sense? Now let us say you are standing outside and there is a thunderstorm. What will you do? Because of your mobility, you will run into the shelter. What will the plant do? It has to be there. And to be there, whether it is a snowfall, it is a drought, it is thunderstorm, it is hailstorm, whatever adverse conditions, plant has to be there, right in that soil where it is anchored because of its roots. So they developed the molecules which will help them in defending themselves against these adversities and pass a signal to rest of the plant that how to react. And these are the metabolites which help them in defending against pathogens, against pests, against adversities and so on. And we start using them as humans are for our selfish needs, and these are called medicines or drugs made from plants. Now another perception that we have to understand is that we always debate between developed world and developing world or underdeveloped. We also say India is developing very fast. I would say in a sense it has already developed. And that sense is that we have got all diseases of developed world now. The diseases related to lifestyle because of our working style, being on computers and benches and others, then eating habits where we eat sort of convenient foods and so on, and affordability to do that. Now because of that we are developed, and as a result we have all metabolic disorders related to nervous system, obesity, diabetes, and even energy and so on. So this is a report which came out by CII and McKinsey, and we find that these are now going to be not only the developed world problems but also Indian health problems. And as a consequence, if we just look at the market of this crisis is opportunity. So that is why not. When this is a crisis, can we really make some dent here? Can we make business here, and can we make an improvement and also add to the health of the community? Then in billion-dollar category of drug therapeutics which can come from plants, you have inflammation or immunological problems, heart-related problems, metabolism-related or hormones-related problems, infections, cancer, nervous system, and pain. Pain is a consequence of many things. So these are the billion-dollar category drugs which one can work on. And that means if we just want to see where are in nature these things available, because of that immobility of plants and capability of the plants to produce molecules, it goes into nervine tonics. So these are the plants which can give you nervous system stimulants and also memory enhancers and so on. Obesity. Obesity looks as such a simple term, but obesity is not that simple. A person looking fat is not obese necessarily. Obesity is inside, and your blood profile tells even a lean person can be very obese. And that is where that can lead to many diseases. It could be high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary heart disease, stroke of the brain, osteoarthritis, sleep problems, cancer, and so on. So obesity has to be tackled from its origin, and that is where one can get an opportunity to look at the plants which can give you molecules which can revert the obesity or take care of the obesity. These are some of the plants, some of them which you know very well, and one of them is garlic, Allium sativum. Now, garlic is the biggest market in the world as far as raw drugs are concerned. If you are moving in Frankfurt airport, you will find garlic smell very often, and that is because most of the people there, they are having the clove, raw clove of garlic in their mouth to take care of, in the other hand, whatever they are eating as the fatty food. So that is where garlic is making the difference. So like that, there are many answers, and if I just go into now simplifying this, these are the basic molecules: ascorbic acid or vitamin C, citric acid, beta carotene like you see in tomato or in carrots and so on. So these are the molecules which can take care of obesity, provided they are taken in a way that they are available to our body. So it means that one has to integrate into technology what you would like to take. Similarly for diabetes, there are plants, and the cancer there are plants, and to understand this, what we need is an alphabet, the ABC, and that ABC is agriculture, where you need to know how to propagate these plants and grow them on a commercial scale. The biology, where we are able to go deep into them, making use of today's instrumentation and computer sciences and bioinformatics to really reach where we want to be. And the chemistry, going up to chemical technology, where you develop the processes and then have the things that can be utilized, whether it's into a health system or it's into a nutrition system and so on. So the strategy has to be, if you have the alphabet, you have to reach the unreached and link the unlinked. And that is where we have to understand that how the plants are organized within themselves in terms of their genetics, in terms of their genes, and then the molecules they produce. It's very interesting. I have given this statement even in the abstract of synopsis, which you might have seen. Too few genes, too many molecules. If we just go by a corollary, which we understand that a gene for a protein and then going to a molecule synthesis and so on, you find that hardly there are 30,000-40,000 genes, and there are already 2 lakh molecules known in plants, and almost 1 million molecules are anticipated from plants. And people are working on them. Then how these are happening is now the process of the genetics. That is post-transcriptional modification, post-translational modifications, and then secondary metabolism and so on. And that gives us the opportunities. And one of the opportunity which I see where most of the sciences can really integrate is in changing the spelling of farming. In place of F of farming, you have to make PH of farm. And that farming is molecular farming. And when we want to understand that, I just give you example. You know wheat. Wheat, when it is mature, it looks like this. When it starts, it is like these seedlings, and then it becomes a green field, and then the spikes are formed, grains are filled in them, and then you can look at those grains, and farmer can really look at that. This is the yield he is going to get out of his field. So this is his harvest. But then there could be other kinds of plants. Now this is called Artemisia annua. This plant has leaves and inflorescence, beautiful, like wheat. The inflorescence has florets which again are typical Asteraceae, sunflower family. But farmer doesn't know what it is going to produce. This is the molecule which it produces. It is called artemisinin, which is a molecule which is anti-malarial. When you have brain malaria or cerebral malaria, or the patient goes into comatose, then there are no other anti-malarial drugs which will work other than artemisinin or its derivatives. Now a farmer is growing this and he is looking at leaves and other things, he cannot know what molecule it is going to produce. That is where then some simpler tests that will relate with how much artemisinin it is going to produce have to be there. And ultimately it becomes farming to farming. And the change in terms of the income that farmer can get per hectare is something like from 10,000 rupees a hectare to 1.5 lakh rupees a hectare. Now that is where the difference will come. So those technologies which will aid into high-tech farming or PHARMING farming is something which innovation can make the difference. Now this is another sort of farming where India today tops the world. It is mint farming. Mint technology is something where I have put half of my career, and we saw to it that the mint, we are able to win a war against China, and we did. And in that war against China, it was science, it was technology, it was why not. And when why not started answering, we became #1 in the world. And this is the farmers who have the distillation or processing unit with them. Now this is how from CMAP, where I had been working, we installed several distillation units into farmers' fields, and they were able to produce mentha oil, which contains menthol, the mint that goes into your toothpaste or goes into polo and things like that, and then they are able to market. And you would be surprised that where mint is grown, the belt, Indo-Gangetic belt, people use these type of canes, and this is just like currency. Anytime they can go into the market and sell it and then use that money. Now this is how the whole family gets involved into it. Now this lady is not washing utensils. She is collecting mint oil from her distillation unit. The husband and the sons, they are young generation producing mint in the field, and then it is distilled, and the household is taking care of that. And therefore, they are able to transform their life. One of the things that you see is they have moved from kacha houses to pakka houses. Now, here I have 3 indexes which I have estimated because of this technology. One is better house. Second is better meal. They get 3 meals a day and they are nutritional. And third is that their elder children have gone to school. When I was there at 11 o'clock, the elder children had gone to school. So they had the affordability to send their children to school, and also a motivation that they should go to school, because they felt if this is science, if this is what distillation unit and cultivation can make difference, if we understand it better, we can do many more avenues, and that's what transformed many regions in India. On the other hand, in science, when we look at, very interesting thing to note, that this 10,000 tons of oil, when menthol has been taken out, it still has 25% menthol in it, and also free menthol, almost 4,500 tons. Now we have done total genomics of this plant. All the genes involved in the pathway for synthesis of menthol have been cloned in yeast, and menthol can be converted into menthol in yeast background. And that means that what was otherwise being thrown at 1 to 2 rupees a kg, now again becomes 800 rupees a kg. So that is where value addition can happen. And the question was, why not? Why not use this menthol? Why not make this free menthol into crystallized menthol? And that is where genomics helps, the chemistry and the chemical engineer is able to make crystals of this menthol. This is how we have grown and how we have really fought the war with China. We were at par in 96. Before that we were too low. 96 we came almost at par, and then India never looked back and China left it slowly. And that is how today, if you just look at this data which National Spot Exchange has quoted, is that 2003 the area under mint and the production was something like this from 96. So we had reached 75%, and 2007 it became like this, where we took 90% share of the world market. And this is the rise that mint technology has given to India. And today there are 5 crore man days generated by mint technology, and there are 5 lakh families which are dependent on mint alone in that time. So that is the type of employment it generates. This is the data submitted by Spice Board of India, where to tell that they are doing good, they have also included mint into their products. Otherwise, mint is not a typical spice, but they prefer to use it because it is performing so well. And if you just look at this data, out of 35,000, 3,500 crores, 1,100 crores is by mint. So 1/3 of the total spice value of India is mint. And then the mint products. Now, you know, if you just saw that graph where China had gone down and we have gone up, we may feel very happy. You know, we have beaten them and we are now ruling. Now, what were we doing by this is that we were producing menthol and exporting it. And all the exports that we were doing to US was going to China. And China was value adding that menthol and exporting to India back. And we are buying the thing which we feel we have won the war. Actually, we have not won the war. War is still to be fought. So it's an evolution. It's a continuous process. So we will have to think, how do we now make value in the menthol and start producing something that can again beat them or stop it. The smartness of China is that when they feel that this is going against economics, they leave it. They go till a point and then they just leave it. And when they leave it, it doesn't mean that they have left that. They have looked at another opportunity in that crisis. So every crisis for them is an opportunity. Every opportunity for us usually is a crisis. So that is where we have to come out of this. So don't think when you are in trouble that this is where the world stops. No, this is where the world begins. When do you see the light? Have you ever seen light? Light beam? When do you see that? In the dark. So when you are in dark, then only you can see the light. And when you are in dark, then only hope comes, the opportunity comes. So it's on our perception and visibility that can we point it out and make use of that. That's what our approach should be. Now other is the example where, of course, you say fortunately or unfortunately, I had to fight again a war with China. You know that when we talk of technology, the examples that come are always Chinese. And even on Diwali, you know, the lights and our gods and everything, they are made in China and their eyebrows are going like this. But we are accepting because they are cost effective. So when I started this work, my team, when I say I, it means we. And we were looking at that what would be the cost of this powder of artemisinin to be produced from the artemisia that grows in our Kashmir region. So it was coming to something like 40,000 rupees a kilogram. Okay, and China was selling it at something like $400 a kg. And at that time, dollar was 40 rupees, so 16,000 rupees a kg. And 40,000 is our cost. We cannot beat that. We cannot compete with that. So better is to import from China rather than producing it here. So we looked at it. We looked at where would be the factors which we can also produce at same rate or lesser rate or not. So we worked on it, and ultimately this is what is there in market called EMA, eradicate malaria. This is in injection form. When you have cerebral malaria or falciparum infection, then you have only this choice. And this is produced by Themis, whom we transferred the technology, and it is exported now to 42 countries. So that is where India again is on a position where we can with pride say that we could make it. And here, yes.
So now what's the rate of that injection?
No, not injection, the powder, 12,000 rupees. So 16,000 China, 12,000 we. Now to reach that rate, the question he has asked me before I could reach the answer so good was now this time to biology and biotechnology. And what we did is we developed markers which were linked to the biosynthesis of artemisinin in Artemisia annua, and had a star marker which was able to help us in molecular breeding or screening of the germplasm, and then making recurrent selection in open pollinated cross here. And when we did that, we were able to look at that high type had this marker present and low type did not have this. With this we did the selections, and ultimately we evolved a variety called Sim Arogya. Now Sim Arogya is a variety driven from Kashmir grown plants. Kashmir is, you know, cool climate, where 0.2% artemisinin was produced in the biomass, and we brought that into desert conditions like Lucknow and Madhya Pradesh and even you can say some part of Chhattisgarh and Uttar Pradesh, where it could grow well and produce 1% plus artemisinin. So from 0.2% to artemisinin, 1%, 5 times advantage. That's where we could reduce the price. And ultimately this technology was transferred to Salmon Agency. This is Themis Healthcare Chairman Dr. Patel. We gave to them, we gave to this Vital Healthcare, Mr. Bajaj, and then a society in Tamil Nadu who are also doing farmers, they grow and then they give to these companies. This is our subsidiary Sanat. This is Biotech International in Delhi, and this is a company of Punjab. And then Gujarat State Fertilizer Corporation wanted to diversify into other crops, and they also took this technology. And to do that, now to achieve that, what we had to do? We had to go into development of something in the areas, so we called them as biovillages. And Artemisia biovillage was one of the things where farmers grew it in large scale, and these companies had buyback arrangements with them, and the farmers were able to sell, and our scientists kept visiting their fields to tell them how really to cull out what is not desirable in your field. So this came up in Nature in November 2004, that China had all of a sudden, because of this reduction in price, withdrawn artemisinin from the market. And therefore total dependence was, if we have technology and we can produce at that scale, then only we will be able to make visibility. That's why biovillages were required. And to do that, the institution, as institution, we acted as a link between them. and we made BioVillages mission, and then various industries signed agreement with farmers that they will buy if they grow this, and we had the marker for that crop, that this marker means this much yield, and it started translating, and in January 2005 you had in Science another thing, the source of new hope against malaria short. So that's how you can make crisis into opportunities. We also had another challenge which we took as entrepreneurship in Uttaranchal, where you know now also it's suffering from a major problem. Uttaranchal, the problem is that the farmers have lands which are very small. They are not in hectares or acres, they are in nallis. And one nalli is 1/50th of a hectare, and the farmer family has to depend on that. Can we give them a crop which can be really good for their needs? So we brought in a very sweet smelling rose scented geranium for them, because the atmosphere there is very conducive for that. So that is where we had to apply mind and give them the total technology, right from how to produce seedlings to a nursery and then transporting. You know, when I did that, began that, people felt he's a crazy guy. Sitting in Lucknow, he's talking of Uttarakhand hills, and how is he going to bring that material there? So we did that. This milk carriers, we carried these plants to Uttaranchal as the starting material. It reached there, we told farmers that you can do it. They themselves started doing that. This is how it reached farmers in the hills, and farmers then learned from us the cultivation of this, and also cultivation with the crop they were having. For example, here it is garlic, which gives them good income, and the crops came up. The ladies learned how to harvest it, what is the right stage, weighing it, and then we gave them the field scale small units of distillation for the oil. And this oil into these distillation units they were able to do, and ultimately the oil of geranium came out. Now oil of mint, which I was telling you, sells at that time used to sell at 300 rupees, now it sells at 600 to 800 rupees a kg. This oil of geranium sells at 8,000 rupees a kg, 5,000 to 8,000 rupees a kg. And these farmers started jumping when they saw this oil and the market for them, because we took the market to hills, and now market itself is going there to get the right quality of oil. I also gave a statement in my synopsis, which you must have seen, that it is not necessary according to our mindset that 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 can be 0, 1 plus 1 can be more than 2 or even 11. And there could be also positions 1 plus 0 can be 10. Now what looks 0 can be something which is a facilitator. So this is an example, bioenhancers. Bioenhancers themselves are not drugs, but they can facilitate the activity of the drug, so their movement across the membrane, so therefore the bioavailability. And one of the patented molecules that came out from us in India is niacinamide. It came from Moringa oleifera, that is called session. You must have seen drumstick, which goes into sambar. From there we got this molecule, and it can really make a big difference when it is antibiotic therapy. I just give you a simple example, that if this is a killing zone of tuberculosis, and this concentration are same, which one is bigger? This one. Here it is only the drug rifampicin, and here it is rifampicin with niacinamide. Or if you see killing, this is a sublethal dose of rifampicin, it is killing, and these are the survivors. When you have put niacinamide along with it, the killing is much higher. So that enhancement can reduce the dosage requirement for tuberculosis therapy or cancer therapy and so on. So this is how many folds it can, how many folds it will enhance is given in this red thing. And then we did not stop at 154, we went into Ipomia muricata, which is Chakarkan family, and we got one molecule. We got glycyrrhizine from Glycyrrhiza glabra, that is muletin, and these are the bioenhancers. One of the problems that Colgate-Palmolive brought to us was that they have mouthwash which is required against gingivitis, and for that they require triclosan, and triclosan is bitter in taste. Can we reduce that? So we use that, And with niacinamide, we found that it was able to really clear a lot of bleeding problem in gingivitis with a lower dose of triclosan. So, on one side we are saying drug, and on the other hand we are saying bitterness. And if you know glycyrrhizine is sweet, so it will not only reduce the bitterness, it will kill the bitterness. Now I come to the last part of discussion that I thought I will bring to you is the field into which now I am working. That is nutraceuticals, or let us say changing the spelling of the foods. Like farming, now here I want to put double F-O-O-D-S, and that is what is called as functional food. And functional food is, it is the food, normal food, its ingredients are such designed that this can give you some health advantage. These are also called as health foods and so on. So it has all edible components and health promoting advantage because of the specific design of that food, and the products can come which I will tell you at the end. And nutraceutical is something which is more like a drug which comes out of the plant material as a molecule which you can put into the functional food. The frontier that we have thought which would work is through biohorticulture. You know, in horticulture you have lot of waste in pulps and other materials in form of peel and other things. They contain lot of nutrition, lot of nutraceuticals. Can we make use of them? So we have conceptualized this, we have published this, and we find that it is working. We have validated it. And functional foods, which advantages we can give is would be pigments, the fibers, the fatty acid. You must be hearing nowadays about omega-3, omega-6. You have sources mainly from fish, but plants also can provide a good source, particularly algae, flavonoids, phenols, and ultimately prebiotics, which are essential for our gut to support the probiotic growth within our gut to colonize there. And there could be these materials which I said go as waste, can also be used as matrices to impregnate these nutraceuticals into them and give them the same taste as you see into your foods and eat them. If we look at the opportunity, the market is going to grow like this. This is the slope, and approximately 16,000 crores by Frost and Sullivan report. Now, the question is that where do we stand in the world? We stand in the world at 1% of $200 billion market. So, obviously, we are resourceful, we have minds, we can think how to do it, we can go up to 10% easily, but our target has to be much higher than that. So, that is where this field is going to take us. And the route to this is chemistry of agriculture. You must be seeing the programs in TV. One of them is Dance India Dance, right? And whenever there is a good performance, they say that there is a good chemistry between the choreographer and the dancer. Same chemistry has to be there between you and your system of working. Plant have their own chemistry, and if we are trying to get their biology, the best performance, we have to understand their chemistry. And that is why now the next revolution, like green revolution in agriculture, can happen only through chemistry of agriculture and not through agronomy of agriculture or cultivation in agriculture. And chemistry will come from metabolism, the metabolic pathways that operate in plant. Now here is one example that these are isoprenes. These two isoprenes, which are C5 moieties, join and make one monoterpene, which is C10. 10 carbon atoms, and this can dimerize and give you a diterpene C20, and can combine with another isoprene and give you sesquiterpene of C50, and these can dimerize and give you triterpenes, and diterpenes can give you tetraterpenes, and so on. So these terpenoids are the basic molecules which give you all sorts of drug and other advantages for health. And sesquiterpene example I have just given you, artemisinin, which is an example which is so important. Diterpenes and triterpenes, they are anti-cancer molecules. And if we look at the botany of these plants, they belong to different families. So if I define them taxonomically, they will not make these groups. This is chemistry groups. So therefore you can say chemotaxonomy. So there can be another way of looking at plants from their chemistry point of view and then utilizing them. One of the Nobel Prize winning happening in the world was golden rice. From a normal rice, golden rice. What they did, Botrytis and Bayer, they used geranyl pyrophosphate step. Geranyl pyrophosphate step, which happens in all plants. So they used in rice, and they borrowed genes from fungus, bacteria and plants, and these are the borrowed genes, and ultimately they synthesize beta carotene. And beta carotene is precursor of vitamin A, and therefore it becomes the first man-made nutraceutical crop. So this is a crop of rice which will give also beta carotene, otherwise it doesn't happen. But the problem was that this golden rice had this much amount of beta carotene that you would need 1 kilogram plus to be eaten every day. So one approach which they followed and succeeded to great extent is that put it under a hyper-expressing promoter and then have more expression of beta carotene. Other is what I said, biohorticulture, where you can think of a horty rice. So you can have a tomato rice, you can have moringa rice and so on. So moringa is where I told you niacinamide. Its leaves are so rich in beta carotene that although the source, natural source of beta carotene is carrots, from where the term comes, 1 kilogram of the carrots is equivalent to 32 grams of moringa leaves, the sage leaves. And the stability of beta carotene moringa is much higher than carrots. And therefore, if you make one platter of rice and put a few leaves of moringa on it, which in Bengal or eastern side of India, moringa is very common to be used in foods, you get better than the golden rice advantage in terms of beta carotene nutrition. So therefore, this could be used as a matrix, and you can have cookies, or you could have chocolates, or you could have pizza and so many things which can be rich in beta carotene. Now I very quickly will go through this journey. Yeah.
Sir, I have heard that Indian Rice Research Institute had developed a rice named as Atlas 65. Today actually it has more vitamin A content.
That's beta carotene figure.
Yeah.
True.
But we have already created an Atlas 65.
But the amount of that is so low that you need to eat 500 grams to 750 grams, and here you eat whatever you eat and put that. Second problem, GM is not clear, right? So GM food is still to come. There are so many controversies on GM. We have to find out the answers, alternatives always. So when GM crisis came, for me the opportunity was to bring something, an answer which can take care of that. So of course when that will be hyper expressed and GM is allowed as a food, you will have that answer out. So always it's better to have many options rather than only one option. So I'll just take you through this. I will not go into what is written below there, but just to tell you what are the things that can be used in functional food. Sulforaphane, which is chemopreventive advantage in broccoli. Dietary fibers, omega-3 fatty acids from plants. You have shea, you have flax, you have soya, you have beans. The peptides, wheat germ, spinach, calcium, soybean or peanuts or peas, or in fact all legumes. Vitamins and minerals, most fruit and vegetable, in fact they are waste. Beta carotene not limiting to carrot, but going to GM rice, moringa and many other options. Even alpha carotene is very important. Usually we have concentrated always thinking from vitamin A angle, therefore beta carotene. But alpha carotene as such is useful in some of the ailments related to cardiovascular system and also diabetes. This is Arona. This is a complete food in itself. If you will just see some of the dietary recommendation for children when they move from milk to semi-solid food, rather than making a Cerelac or that sort of thing, you can just take its pulp and feed to the children. It has almost everything that you desire as a complete food. Prebiotics, which are required to support the growth of probiotics, which we possess. Now, like I am moving here. You know how many cells are moving when I am moving? It is 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion cells move when I move. But how many of them are my own? Only 10 trillion. 90 trillion cells in each one of you belong to the microbes that are in your gut and on your body and in your body. So you own your genome only 10%, rest of the genome which is working in each one of you is microbes, 90%. And out of that 90% microbes, 90% are what are useful microorganisms. That's why they remain there. These are called probiotics. You must have seen products like Yakult and things coming up which are there. If I just take out my microbes and weigh them, it's 1.5 kilogram of them and 90 trillion cells. But the problem is that with our other habits of eating foods like burnt food like tandooris and pizza and many samosa and things like that, what we are doing is we are harming these and they want to leave our body. Now we have to again supplement. But when we drink Yakult type of drink or any probiotic, it doesn't go and colonize there. What you need is a food that we do not compete with them. A nutrition which probiotics will make use of and our metabolism will not compete. Otherwise we will not let them grow. And these are called prebiotics. But prebiotics are those materials which we do not digest. Probiotics can use as their substrate and then also utilize as their carbon source, and they do not cause us indigestion. They improve our physical digestion. That means the movement of whatever food we are taking, bowel movement. Now that is what comes from fiber, soluble fiber and dietary fiber. And soluble fiber are the mucilages which many plant seeds produce, and oligosaccharides, fructooligosaccharides, glucooligosaccharides and so on. So those are essential things. So if we want to make use of probiotics, we must have prebiotics into our food. This is anar punica. They say ek anar so bimar. The answer or the reason of saying that is that there are hundreds of diseases which one pomegranate can take care of. So many molecules. In fact, if you compare the catechins, because of which you get tea advantage. You must have seen nowadays this Akshay Kumar saying that this has flavonoids in tea leaves. Now those flavonoids are catechins, and you will be surprised to know per unit biomass pomegranate or anar has more catechins than tea. So therefore I don't see any problem in making anar tea than the tea. And that will be much more healthy. Berries, grapes are known for that. This is called oxygen radical absorbance capacity. When we eat this so-called junk food, in fact I don't call any food as junk food because you can call either as junk or food. Calling junk food means we are saying an ugly beautiful woman. It cannot be. So we have ourselves converted by processing the food into a bad food. But the ORAC value which is there in many of our fruits can take care of the free radicals, the superoxide radicals that are generated when we eat this and causes the harm and triglyceride level goes up. They are able to take care of these radicals. And there, this grape tops the list, of course now blueberries and layberry or sea buckthorn and so many others have come up into picture. One of the other things that we has been seen in grape is the French paradox. That French people take the maximum wine and they have the best heart. Now that means that cardiovascular system is unaffected, and it is because they take red wine from grape and that has resveratrol as a molecule which is the best molecule as far as antioxidant is concerned. Yeah, the other advantages also of grape. This is watermelon. I was discussing with your president just now before coming to you that it has, other than beta carotene and lycopene, what is called as citrulline. Citrulline is a precursor of arginine amino acid. Arginine deficiency happens in sportsmen and people beyond 60 when they do any exercise. The arginine supplementation is required, otherwise muscle degeneration starts happening. So you need to take arginine supplement. When you take arginine supplement, it gives you nausea. So what do? Why not? Again, why not? The way is you take citrulline, which is a precursor of arginine, and our body can biologically convert into arginine, and citrulline does not give you that nausea problem. So other than other advantages, this is a technology innovation which is required to make use of this. Banana, it's huge use, that's why this has become part of our food. And in fact, there are chemotypes or genotypes of banana which can be used for different purposes. Tomato, which is rich in lycopene, but you have to be careful in tomato about tomatin. The green unripe tomato or greenish patch, if it is there, tomatin is there, and tomatin is what will spoil your total digestive system if you take it. So be careful. Capsicum, which looks, by its name, pungent thing, but two of my students worked on it. They separated the capsanthin, that is a red color, from capsaicin, which is a pungency. So there are red chilies which are not hot, and there are hot chilies which are not red. So both are possible by genetics, and therefore the best natural pigment, edible pigment that can come in red color is from chilies. And you must have seen nowadays bell pepper coming in orange and all designer colors. That is a result of this selection and breeding. This is something which became world news in 2010, that beetroot, one glass of juice can boost your stamina. So all sportsmen started taking. It's because of the nitrate content. Adium, I have told you, the best use for cholesterol management. Now I come to final part of the story, and that is that keeping these things in mind and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship to be developed by me as well as those who associate with me. We formed Skies India on 11th May 2012 in Biotech Park in Lucknow. We exchanged papers for laboratory space there, and in this year, in May, we have made this into also an arm of a private limited company, Skies Life Technologies, which works on the mission of bringing nature to life. Now it has both the meanings. Nature has to live, and in our life nature has to come. Both the things it does. And as a result of this research that we did at Biotech Park, and we are going to convert that into a processing unit, we have come out with one first functional food material that is named as YoFiber. That is yogurt protein and fiber on a chocolate format, which is health chocolate, which will take care of the sugar and fat metabolism. Those of you who are interested in tasting that can write to me, and I'll send you the sample in winter, because summer it will just melt down. But I'm leaving a copy of the literature with Professor Khanna. You can have a look on it, that how one can think in terms of, now here it has taken chemistry, it has taken biology, it has taken food science, it has taken total mechanical engineering for processing of that, even designing a melter for that, so that you could convert that. Then from cocoa to cocoa powder, and then impregnating that with the fiber from Trigonella methi, which really can make a gel with the fat and sugars and excrete it out, is something which is going to be released very soon by Skies Life Technologies. And also, in our foundation Skies itself, we have started a program of developing entrepreneurs. And those young graduates, or even those who are not graduates or during their graduation want to take a mentorship, we offer them that advantage. Of course, we don't run batches, that this is the batch period and 10 people will be doing. It is one-to-one individual mentoring, where one would be starting from the science, you will judge what is the skill that you can develop best, and then we go to products like this which you have seen in UO5. Believe me, if you want to really be outstanding, you want to be outstanding in your field, there is only one way. You should do what you love. If you do something which you don't like, you cannot excel. But it is not always essential that you can do what you like. Right? Then what is the other option? What is the other opportunity when you get something which is not the best you like? Then it is that you start liking it. When you start liking it, start loving it, you will find a component which you can love, you will again excel, and you can make an entrepreneur out of it. Let me say thanks to Team CMAP, which is 400 plus people who supported me when I worked in medicinal plants, aromatic plant, mint technology, artificial technology, I told you.